Hey Martin, how's things?
Hello, welcome back.
Thanks.
How was vacation?
Yeah, that's all right. It's
Mhm.
good to take mind off work for a minute.
Let me ping Michael. I think he wanted to join. So this is a July working group. We can probably start. I don't think anyone else is coming.
Cool. Do you want to do this kickoff or shall I?
I never know what to say.
All right, I'll do it. Just give us a sec. I need to find the agenda again. I was just going through your pull request. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Hello Martin. Hello YouTube. Welcome to the what should be the July edition of the GraphQL over HTTP working group, but is in fact being hosted in August due to various holiday related shenanigans. By being here, we have agreed to the specification membership agreement, the participation guidelines, the contribution guide, and the code of conduct. And we're aware that the meetings are being recorded, they're published to YouTube, and that we use large language models and AI summary tools on them. We'll start with a quick introduction of the attendees, which today is myself from Grapho. Hi, I'm Benji.
And myself from Apollo. Hello, I'm Martin.
And we'll just have a quick scan over the agenda. Um, Primarily, I'm just going to skip the normal stuff since it's just the two of us. We're going to be looking at the query HTTP verb and talking about the release status, both of which are your topics, Martin. So I'll hand them over to
Yeah.
you.
Maybe we can start by the second one actually, because I'm guessing we don't want query in the release, right?
I think it's a bit late to squeeze that in now. Yes, we need it like tested in prod first, I would say.
So planning to release in September, right? So we should freeze in August. What is the timeline? there?
I've added it to the GraphQL working group for
Tomorrow.
Thursday. Yep. So plan is basically just get sign off then, and then we're done. We may have to do that last minute merge of the recommended to should,
Should.
um, if need be. But other than that, I think we're essentially good to go.
This was from Lee, right? So hopefully he can give us feedback tomorrow.
Yes.
I have one pull request, which is move ignore unknown parameters in the comment section, but it's mostly editorial, so not urgent at all.
Do we need that for the first release?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Let's skip anything that's non-essential, I would say.
Yep. And that's it, I think. This is very cool. This has been in the making, what, 8 years?
It's been a while, yeah. I forget when Ivan did the first version of it, but it was a few years ago now.
So if we are good on the release status, yeah, maybe we can take a few minutes to talk about query. I open this because query is now, so it's pull request 411. Query is now what? RFC, like IETF RFC, what's
10,008.
10,008. Which is basically, I looked at it at some point, it's basically the biggest status it can have. Like there is one more if you look at it, but like a lot of the RFCs do not even reach that status. I forgot where is it. But anyway, a lot of people are implementing it. It's in Spring now. OKHTTP, one of the big Java client, has it. Everyone is jumping on the query wagon. So I
Good.
figured we should too. I took in this pull request, I made the choice of copy pasting a lot of what is used for post. It's duplicating a lot of content. There was a question from Chain whether like it was good or not. I think this is good for the reader because it's a reference, so I don't mind the duplication. But if you have strong opinions about this, like we can also restructure the document to do less duplication. And besides,
Um,
yeah,
I'm not too bothered about duplication, to be honest.
yeah,
I mean, if it were essentially exactly the same as post, um, but just a different verb and it's idempotent, then like we wouldn't need two copies of it. But I think there is more to it than that.
yeah,
So I think it does make
there's
sense to have it separate.
subtles, yeah, subtles differences. Like one of them, I think, is yeah, if a server supports query, it says it must support application JSON media type, whereas with post, it's a may. So there are very nice, very subtle differences.
Indeed.
So
Yeah.
it's just easier to copy paste.
Yeah. But also it's got completely different concerns as well, right? So
Yeah.
like you've got concerns of like caching and various other things like that that post won't have. So I think it does warrant its own section.
Yep. So let's release it. Actually, wait, should I put it in tomorrow's agenda? What is the agenda tomorrow? I don't want to put too big of an agenda, but just asking for feedback might be
So
quick enough.
So I'm just scanning over your pull request at the moment. There's a few things here. So I realized when I read the 1008 sorry, the 10,008 RFC why the encoding of the request was important. And it's for the accept query header, which I don't think you've mentioned at all in your pull request. But essentially that's how you advertise to clients that it supports query. and what it supports. And he was essentially saying, look, if you just have JSON, then that doesn't tell the client anything about what it actually supports. Whereas if you say application/GraphQL request plus JSON, then it's like, oh, this accepts GraphQL requests over this endpoint, as opposed to say SQL requests over this endpoint or whatever other requests you might accept. So I think that was what the key thing was there. Just
This
scanning through.
was
Go on.
this was a feedback from I forgot the name of the contributor to the HTTP working group, right? Like we got two questions a while back. Is that what you are referring to or not at
Yes,
all?
indeed. Jay Reshke, I don't know how to say that, I'm afraid,
Yes,
so I've probably messed up the
something like
pronunciation.
yeah. Yeah, there are another on the RFC on the HTTP. So
I've also been like just off topic slightly. I've also been thinking about the request types quite a bit recently. Originally, we proposed trust persisted documents to be a appendix, and I've been struggling with the like encoding of how everything works with that. I've proposed a few different things, and I think I drew out some mermaid diagrams at one point, sort of saying, building kind of an abstraction over it, whatever. But I actually think that it should not be an appendix. It should actually be part of the main spec. And essentially, it's just a different media type. So there'd be a media type for regular GraphQL request, which would be like application/GraphQL-request plus JSON. And then there'd be another one for like application/GraphQL persisted request
Mhm.
plus JSON or something like that. And that way, requiring different fields on it would make sense. And then having instructions in there that say about, okay, you get the identifier, but now you need to actually go and get that document from somewhere else would make sense. And I think we can do that in a similar way to how the GraphQL spec essentially does for resolvers. Like go call the internal method related to resolving this thing. But essentially, what I'm saying here is I think the media type is actually way more important to the future of GraphQL than I realized. And query is another case where that importance of it like shines, I think.
Are you talking about the request media type?
Yes.
Hmm. And the accept query header field or just the accept header field?
The accept would be separate. So that would be for the response type as opposed to the request type.
Uh,
Oh, sorry, the accept query, accept dash query.
yes. Is
Yes.
that what we
So
need to discuss? Yeah, we need to
yeah,
add to
that's
make clear.
a server header. So the server can indicate it as part of like an options request. Also,
Hmm.
interestingly, we don't specify options right now, so we should probably do that as well. But essentially it gives the server a way of indicating to the client what it supports in the same kind of vein as what we want to do with service capabilities.
Yeah.
So I think that this kind of stuff is actually going to get more and more important because again, the whole aim for me with all of this stuff that we're kind of working towards at the moment is that you should just be able to give a GraphQL endpoint to a user. They should be able to feed it to their GraphQL tool and it should understand everything about that service automatically without the user needing to know, is it using server sent events or is it using WebSockets? Is it using trusted documents or is it just using regular queries? Does it support the query type? Should you be sending queries over GET or POST? All this stuff should be auto discoverable. So I think
Yep.
that this really like ties into that quite a lot.
Yep. Agreed.
So I haven't managed to actually fully read your spec because I'm talking to you quite a lot on the call. But one of the things that just popped out to me there was because it's in backticks is the 405 method not allowed. I don't think you should use that with query because query would presumably, like post, go to a fixed endpoint typically, right? Slash GraphQL. So
Mm-hmm.
what you'd be saying by responding with a 405 is slash GraphQL does not support query requests if you
Mm-hmm.
try and issue a mutation.
Mm. Mutation over query sounds weird, right? Because you want to do queries over query, but
Yes,
if you do a mutation,
you should never do a GraphQL mutation over a query, just like you shouldn't do one over a get. But if you issue a mutation over the HTTP query method, in your spec it says you must use 405. But if you use 405, what you're actually saying is that the GraphQL endpoint does not support the query verb.
mm,
You're not saying for this specific operation. You're saying in general it doesn't support that verb. So I don't
but
think that's the right status code. You should use maybe 422 for that.
isn't it the same problem with get then?
No,
What's
because get factors the request into the URL, right? It's part of the query string. So when you say 405 for a particular request, it has mutation as part of the query string, and it's only that
mm,
query string that's being invalidated.
okay, I see. So the URL is inside. Okay. So what are you recommending for tutu?
I think 422 would be the correct one for this. Like, essentially, it's kind of the same as a validation error.
Unprocessable entity. All right. I can change that definitely.
And in this case, I'm not sure we need the must for this.
Yeah, I
For the
just
get, it makes sense,
yeah.
but for this, I'm not so sure.
I mean, even for the get, I think you merged my PR that turns it into a should. So I'm guessing it's just outdated.
I think it would be good to see a number of like clients and servers using query before we merge it into the spec, because we need to find issues like this before we specify it and essentially say this is what's set forever.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, let's do this. Let's definitely not try and slip this into the September release.
No, no, no. My question was about tomorrow's working group, but the agenda is actually quite slim. So if you don't mind, I will add it as a 2 minutes item, like just for awareness, get some eyes
Hi
on it.
guys.
Yeah, of course.
Hey,
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
hey, Michael.
Sorry. I had to watch after my kids. So sorry.
That's important. Everyone okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
How
think we
far are
were
we?
I think we were just wrapping up actually, Michael. But as a quick summary of what we've achieved, we the current state of the HTTP spec is being proposed tomorrow to be essentially adopted into the September release. So that should be the
Yeah.
first release of it. And then we've talked through query a bit. We've basically justified it being in its own section as
Yeah.
opposed to just being like post and query are the same, because they're not. Um, we've also talked about a few of the subtleties of it, things like accept query. We also talked about request media types. So I was saying to Martin, this is one of the things that I think is going to be more important in future. I've been thinking more about the persisted documents, and I don't think that that should actually be an appendix as we originally proposed it. I think it actually should be a request media type. Um,
Yeah.
and similarly, one of the authors of the HTTP 10,008 spec, the spec for query, essentially was saying we shouldn't be using the JSON media type. And I think part of the reason for that is you want to be able to advertise through the accept-query header from the server that this endpoint supports GraphQL queries. And for that, you need to use a media type to indicate that. And just using application JSON doesn't say this endpoint supports GraphQL queries. It just says it supports JSON, which is kind of silly. So I think there's more weight leaning towards us having a request media type. And then, yeah, as I say, that makes the persisted documents easier, but I think it's also true of the variable batching. I think that would be a different media type as well.
And that's like that has a lot of applications, like from relay to what we do in the composite schema spec, composite schema working group. So it would be good if we get that like this out. We need to finally have one. And then the things you listed, including the batching, is really should be going into the next version of the spec.
Yeah, for sure. And as I'm sort of trying to say, when you do that, I think that should be not an appendix. I think it should be maybe optional. It's an optional media type, but I think it should be a media type in the main spec.
Yeah.
And essentially different request media types can be handled slightly differently. Like the persisted docs will need to go and look up the document from somewhere else. The batched execution needs to do batched execution, which is different again, that kind of thing. And I'm sure that we'll have more over time as well.
Yeah, and that's also why capabilities then again makes a lot of sense, right? When we have these extra that you can inspect the server.
Yes and no. And the and no part of that is that HTTP has specified this as part of the accept-query header, which tells your client what media types the server supports. So you can use a media type to say, this server supports persisted documents. This server supports batched queries.
Wait. You can ask the server what media types it supports?
Yes.
Is that with a head query or how do you do that?
You would do like an options request, and then you would get an accept query back. So I've just dropped a link in the chat to the relevant section in the 10,008 spec. As I see, Martin has also done it exactly the same moment. But yeah, this to me, I think, is one of the neat features. It's worth reading the spec. It took me about 20 minutes to read it properly. So yeah, have a good read of it. But yeah, there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah. Awesome. That sounds good. Let's get it through, put it to a vote, and then like this is really like this is a pinnacle. Something when we get HTTP through, it's one of the biggest complaints in GraphQL. Finally, we can say, okay, GraphQL has status codes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of
yeah.
And like it's also we don't have to have everything in that we now know. It's important to have the space spec, and then we can iterate.
I was writing a blog post about it. Is it too early to discuss blog post? Let's wait tomorrow what the working group says.
Yeah, I think they will just. I think TSC will wave this through.
I'm not waving it through. Oh, sorry, the HTTP spec. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about query.
No. I mean about the HTTP spec that we now have.
Yes.
I think it's good. It's a good base, and on that we can iterate, and everybody will be just happy to have that.
Yeah, it's been broadly implemented for quite a long time now, so I don't think there'll be any issues there.
Okay.
just changing back to the query topic. I was just scanning over again. I'm scanning over the 10,008 spec itself, and under the security considerations, it notes that it requires a pre-flight request, but it states this in an interesting way. A query request from user agents implementing cross-origin resource sharing will require a pre-flight request, as query does not belong to the set of CORS safe-listed methods. So essentially, the fetch spec doesn't say that query is a safe method, and so it is not treated as one.
That's good.
But that doesn't guarantee that it should never become that.
How do we look at query? Is it just for queries, or is it also, do we want to have it for everything?
It definitely can't be used for mutations.
Okay, that's why I asked, right?
Yeah, no, it very explicitly has to be a safe and idempotent method.
Okay, that's good to know. So it's actually for the get for what you could do over get.
Yes, it's essentially an answer to why GraphQL hasn't used get all these years, and now HTTP finally supports a verb that we can use for it reliably without having to worry about query lengths. Having said that, Martin, I didn't see any advice in here regarding body length. We don't have that for post either, so not the end of the world, but we should think about what those recommendations should be. And I think that they may differ. Like a mutation over post is likely to need to receive more data than a query over query. So worth thinking about what the scale of things are here. If we can find out, like for people that tried to use get for GraphQL and had to move to post because the query strings were too long, finding out what lengths are actually reasonable, I think would be quite valuable. Whether that be part of this spec or whether it be part of like the golden path or something like that, is TBD, but it's definitely something we should think about.
And okay, should I draft a new batching PR, by the way? And like just for variable batching on top of the query, on top of the spec that we have, but not as an appendix?
Yeah, if you can do that whilst also rewriting the spec so that it relates to like a GraphQL-request plus JSON media type, because essentially, go on.
So we have a media type for graph. So there is a standard content type for the request now, is what you're saying.
I said there should be. There isn't, but there should be. And I think it's gone.
It should be different between batching and the normal request.
Yes, they are two. Arguably, yes. You could say it's the same media type, and then you would write rules for that media type. But then essentially you're saying you support, by saying that you support that media type, you're saying you support all three types of those requests, right? You support regular GraphQL requests, persisted documents, and variable batching. I think using different media types for them might be beneficial because essentially they have different parameters, right?
No, not really.
They're kind of different shapes.
The variable batching, the only change, right, is that you have in variable batching, variable is a list of objects instead of an object.
Yeah, but it also impacts what the response will be as well,
yes,
right?
That's true. That's true, because we have JSON-L as a response, for instance.
Yeah, so to my mind, the variable batching request and response are different media types. Yes, they are very, very similar, or at least the request type is very, very similar, but it is concretely different. Like variable values is a map for regular, and it's a list for batching.
Is it like, can we choose anything like application GraphQL-request, or is there rules around this?
I
Do we have
don't.
to register?
I think so long as we scope it to ourselves and we use essentially the GraphQL brand name, which is trademarked, I don't think we'll have any issues. So application slash GraphQL dash whatever plus JSON, I think should be fine. The plus JSON is like a regular specified ending. You can't do plus JSON L, for example, because that's not a
Yeah, it would
regular
be so
specified one.
beautiful, you know. It would.
You can do plus XML, you can do plus JSON. But yeah, LD JSON is another extension that means the same as JSON-L, by the way, just line delimited JSON. Anyway, yes, so GraphQL, so application slash GraphQL dash request plus JSON, application slash GraphQL dash persisted dash request plus JSON, application slash GraphQL dash batched dash request, or variable batched if you prefer.
But that is the request media type.
Yes.
But we do a plus JSON there because the request is specified as a JSON.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. But then, what do we want to do for variable batching? Is GraphQL dash request variable batch request?
Yeah, I would think batch request, but then I don't want the other type of batch request to exist. No, it's fine, but like, yeah, I'm not super keen on it. But yeah, like variable batched might make sense. Alternatively, like if you want to do it as one single batch shape, then doing it as because you can combine them, right? You can have one or the other or both.
Yes.
And that I think that being three separate media types is a bit weird.
We could also just say GraphQL dash batch dash request, and then because the response shape is the same, doesn't matter how you combine them, right?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Because it's defined to be streamable, so it's always a JSON L stream of standard GraphQL responses. And then you have the request and variable index in there.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I would be I would be hesitant to specify the JSON-L part of that too heavily. Like it should just be one of the potential media types. Because
we
I think
just
other
need.
people want to use others potentially.
Yeah, we just should have something in the spec. And I think
Yes.
I have Apollo almost that they also are okay with it if we demonstrate that it works out.
Okay. Does the order of payloads matter? I don't think it does because you said that it
No,
specifies
it's
the like indexes.
yeah, it's specifically designed to be out of order with the indexes because then you can just read because otherwise the server needs to buffer, right? If it's
Yeah.
with one of the stuff earlier finished, then it needs to buffer, and I wanted to not have that.
Sorry, we've completely moved on from query now, just FYI for anyone watching on YouTube. We're now talking about batching in general. Does the batching spec that you're proposing explicitly forbid mutations or not?
I focused on query, to be honest, but I didn't forbid mutation.
Okay, well, I think it should forbid subscription.
Yeah, that's explicitly out of scope. But mutation could also be out of scope because if we want to out of order delivery, like also mixing mutation and queries could be. I would say let's forbid it and then see if there's a use case. We can always it's our option value to at some point make it possible if there is a use case for it, but I don't see actually one.
Strong agree. Okay. I would also propose that you consider maybe making it so that it's primarily only specified for the query verb.
Okay.
I think we should.
I have to read into the query spec.
Yeah, it took me about 20 minutes to read it. It's not very big, and mostly that time was thinking about what the consequences were for GraphQL rather than actually reading the text. Um, so yeah, I would recommend that you read it. It's very simple though. It's basically just post, but obviously with caching, safety, um, idempotency, and some like content negotiation stuff mentioned as well, which I think is quite relevant. Um, but yeah, I think over time we should be deprecating sending queries over get and post and recommending that you only send them over query. It would be great to basically align the GraphQL spec now that HTTP can support it with the HTTP verbs. So I'm very positive on doing that.
So queries go over query and the rest still goes over post.
Mutation over post, query over query, and subscription over other transport.
Yeah, but it could also be if you're in the SSE camp, right? It's a post.
So if it's SSE, it would be a query, right? Because a subscription. Well, it's not cacheable. Oh,
Exactly.
that's an interesting question. Server-sent events can typically be done, like ignoring GraphQL, can typically be done just through get, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and gets are cacheable, so it should, I think, broadly follow the same rules as get. So I think it would. I think you would do subscriptions over query as well.
But
Interesting
it's
though.
not it's not cacheable, right? Like subscriptions are not cacheable. Yeah, we have to research that.
Yeah, well, you even with query, you can indicate like cache headers, right? So you can just say it's non-cacheable through a cache header, I think.
Yeah.
I think the spec authors are writing it in such a way where, it's very much intended to be used for things that can be cached.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing. So like in this spec, it talks quite a lot about being able to refer to another URL. So like how you can do location redirects. So like in some old web servers, you would submit a post request, it would process the post, but it wouldn't actually render the response. It would redirect you to a new URL where you would then get the response. This allows you to do something similar. So you can use HTTP 303 see other to actually satisfy the response of a query by sending you on to a get. So you could do the same thing for like
So you have a
events.
post that gets you to a get.
That's how like part of the web used to work back in like the 90s. You would submit a form that would do a post, the post would do some stuff, and then it would redirect you to a get that would then render your web page. Because of course you didn't have like window.fetch or XML HTTP requests back in those days. Like you were just doing things with form submission and PHP. That was how the web worked.
Yeah, there are some complexities we have to research around SSE. The guild actually, I don't know if you saw the single connection mode and stuff like that. Like we never implemented it because we said we are HTTP2, we don't care, but we just have to look into it. Because like Chrome has this limitation over HTTP1, but we could also say we don't care about HTTP1 and then it will all not matter.
I hear this a lot, but actually like HTTP 2 plus isn't unlimited. Most browsers implement 100.
256, 128. Yeah, okay. It was
just 100, I think it is.
Just 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wrote a thing to test it. But like this is actually really significant when it comes to using it for subscriptions, for example, right?
Yeah.
Because unlike GraphQL queries, where you tend to do like one or two big queries for the entire web page, like one for the Chrome and then one for the middle, and that's basically it. For subscriptions, you are very commonly subscribing to like small page elements, like this post that I'm rendering on a feed.
what I would avoid is to have two different kinds how to subscribe. Like in the guild protocol, you can basically subscribe this way, the non-single connection mode or the single connection mode. Like it should be one mechanism that we use, right? Where you either it's really a post where you say I want to create a new subscription, and you basically have one thing where you can subscribe to and get all the results back. I mean, there's research that we need to do around that, but there we have to really look at the limitations.
I agree with you in principle, but in practice, I don't think it's possible. So there's essentially, you either need a two-way communication method, right, where you can subscribe and unsubscribe through that same stream. So that's like WebSockets. WebSockets are absolutely great for subscriptions. They are like the perfect protocol for it. But the main issue with it is not everyone can support WebSockets. Like there are various reasons in infrastructure terms that WebSockets can't be supported by some places. So if you can't support WebSockets, then now you've got this issue of either you need two channels, one for reading and one for writing, where the write is where you subscribe or unsubscribe. And that means that you've effectively become stateful. Like you have to like keep track through some separate mechanism, some other coordinator, which is like really, really complex. Or you make it so that you only subscribe to one particular event through one request. So the request says, hey, I care about this thing. And the response just comes back with a stream of results. But that then hits your regular browser roughly 100 request limit, which is shared
quick
across.
If you have a lot of if you have a lot of tabs open.
Yeah, it's shared across tabs, which is a big deal. And with subscriptions, it's not uncommon to subscribe to like 30, 40 items per page as well. So yeah, you've got three tabs like that. That's it. You've run out of requests. It's not really viable. So basically, none of them are perfect. The actual solution is use WebSockets. So yeah, it's all problematic.
Which some firewalls have issues with, depending on like in some enterprises. I mean,
yeah.
You have also issues with SSE in some enterprises because the proxies buffer the stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we're recommending something, though, from a protocol level in the GraphQL over HTTP spec, I think we will be recommending WebSockets because they are. You will need to unlock them within your infrastructure for sure. But other than that, they are like basically the perfect transport for subscriptions. Yeah. I mean, subscriptions are deliberately real time, and that's what we want for this.
Yeah, I think the I don't know if it was Dennis from the guild who rewrote that.
Yes.
Yeah, that protocol is pretty good, the WebSocket protocol.
Yeah.
So we could also just rally behind that and take it over, maybe polish some rough edges, but
yeah, I think Dennis is on board with that. I don't want to speak for him. I vaguely feel like I asked him this a couple of years back, and he was like open to it in principle. But that was a long time ago, and my memory's a bit fuzzy. So yeah, yes, Martin, that's correct. But yeah, I think
I completely derailed we have basically finished with this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do a bit of research on the query and the transport types, and I basically will create a new pull request for batching.
Yeah.
That goes against the current spec and basically adds that into the spec as an optional batching mechanism.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Honestly, it feels like a missing I've lost the word, but like a missing capability in GraphQL is just like GraphQL like is all about doing batching on the inside when you're executing. Like, yeah, you have to batch everything as data loader this and whatever else that. But like when you come to actually do a request from like one GraphQL server to another, and it's like within already a list, you're like, oh, how do I? Oh yeah, this is a problem. Which obviously is a major issue for like federation. But it's just an issue for regular GraphQL queries that need to talk to other GraphQL schemas as well, right? So like if you're just building something that needs to talk to, say, the GitHub API, like there's not a batched way of requesting things from the GraphQL endpoint on the GitHub API. There should be. So yeah, I think again, variable batching is very much like easy to approve because it's like one pass, one validate, and a predictable like multiplier of effort. And in fact, not even a linear multiplier of effort because your batching is going to work across all of those requests probably. Like you use the same data loaders, probably that kind of thing. Whereas when you start introducing the other forms of request batching where you allow multiple operations, I think suddenly that has like a whole different like security surface area, and you're effectively allowing now 10 times as many requests to go through or 100 times as many requests, which is, I think, more of a security concern.
Yeah, I mean, variable batching is easy to calculate, right? You have the query. If you have a complexity score for that, it's the times that you have a variable object for it.
I think it's at most that many.
Yeah.
I think it's probably in many cases less than that. Whereas for actual request batching, like it is a multiplier, like a direct multiplier.
Yeah, what we basically do in Hot Chocolate is even we fold them into one request. We basically cheat in the engine and say, okay, this is like alias batching. Like basically we act as these in the same execution engine. That means they share the same data loader and stuff like that. And then we at the end write them into different responses. And then you get a very, very, very low performance hit.
Yes.
It's one execution round basically, and it's super cheap.
Yeah. And I think that is almost like for a regular GraphQL JS schema, so long as you create the context per HTTP request, and which has your data loaders on it, right? You're going to get that kind of like optimization just out of the box. Each of those 10 in parallel are still going to use the same data loader. So they're still going to be batched like better than running the same request 10 times through separate requests. So again, this is my hesitation that we should add variable batching, but not the other form of batching. Or if we do the other form, it should be separate. It should be separately enableable, separately like opt-inable.
Yeah, we can also always let's get variable batching in first.
Yes.
And we can always opt for a gap for the request batching.
Yes.
Like it's more niche because we need you get more performance out of gateways. Even if you do Apollo federation, or it doesn't matter which kind of federation, you get a bit more performance out if you use that.
Yeah.
But you could say that is a gap that people can choose to implement.
I think we can. The way that I look at these things is like, if I was trying to sell this to GitHub's public API team, how would I convince them? And I think we can sell easily variable batching as essentially, I can see there are requests in the wild that people are doing in awful ways by doing like the aliasing of fields so that they can include the same field 1,000 times. That would be so much more efficient to just do with variable batching. So I think having them support variable batching out of the box would be like really obvious for their team to support. But request batching, general, like broader batching, I think is going to be a lot harder to convince them to
Yes,
support.
only. So I see it in the subgraph case, right? I would not have it on the gateway because I don't see what the effect would be for me to have this outside. On the subgraphs, they are in one Kubernetes. I would not allow public access, and only the gateway can communicate with them. So there's
Yes, so I differ from that quite significantly. I see significant public usage of this. I don't see it as being useful from like mobile and web apps to your own APIs because like we don't need that. But when you're querying someone else's API, an API that you don't control, that's where it becomes more interesting. So like GitHub's public API should support this.
Yeah, variable batching. I was talking about
Yes.
request batching. It's this thing
Oh, okay.
that for me, like request batching for me is confined within a cluster. So it's basically never exposed to the public.
Yes.
But the gateway and the subgraph, they talk this to make things more efficient. But
Okay.
it's a security risk outside.
That makes sense. Do you think that variable batching support should be a should?
Yes, because
Yeah, me too.
you like if think about the for instance, Matt Mahoney, he said like Node and nodes are actually anti-patterns, right? We always had this kind of way to access things, but their argument is you should rather have a product by a key thingy,
Yes.
right? That is more type.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to build for every of these things a batched variant like what they did with Node and nodes, right?
Yeah.
So with variable batching, it's very easy. You just define how to fetch a product by whatever, and then you use variable batching to get the multiplied fetches there. So I see this as very useful to clients.
Fully agreed. Okay, well, this is great. Well, I think we're aligned on that. I don't know if Martin has any input. He's written some stuff in chat.
No, I need to take a deeper look at the pull request. Well, what's the status, by the way, Michael? Is that ready to review?
What variable batching or
variable batching?
Yeah. After this talk, I will rewrite it probably this week. On Thursday is my foundation day, so I probably will write something tomorrow, or at least get it researched, because I have to really work into all the stuff around query, and then we spec it as a second pull request, and define it as a should, and then I create the request batching and the complex stuff as a gap. Or I put it in the composite schema spec as an appendix, that this can make your stuff more efficient if you have it in the subgraphs or something like this.
Yep.
Very cool. Michael, whilst you're doing that, as we discussed, if you can think about the just general media type for requests, if you can make it so that we can pull that general media type out into its own pull request later easily, that would be great, I think, because a number of our different things are going to want to build on that. And I think it all ties into the same work for you.
Yeah. I first need to understand the whole media type stuff that they suggest for query, and then I will do that.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, drop me a DM if you want any of my input on that, but otherwise I'll leave you to it. And I'm sure I'll see you both tomorrow at the main working group.
See you guys.
See you.
Cheerio. Bye.